Hey girl, real quick. I'm so excited about the new habit-based fitness app I just launched, and I want to invite you to come check it out because I know it will finally help you stay consistent and see and feel results. The programming was created with you in mind. Come get a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app at trainingforlifeapp.com. I can't wait to see you in there. Okay, let's get into the show. Hey girl, if you're done with dieting and the constant starting and stopping of your healthy habits because, well, life, and you'd rather find a way to train for life instead, then you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Emily, habit and fitness coach and midlife boy mom. I've gone from frustrated dieter to now consistently and confidently living a healthy lifestyle, following the habit hacking systems that I'm now going to teach you. Think of this as atomic habits for women. I'm now helping other midlife moms like you feel and look good in their favorite leggings through all seasons of life, following my habit-based fitness programming. No more dieting, my friend, just training for life. So are you ready to habit hack your health? Then let's do this. You're listening to episode 286 of Habit Hack Your Health. Hey girl, welcome back to the show. Or if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Coach Emily. I'm a habit and fitness coach and habit geek, if you will. Love helping women, especially midlife moms, as we are transitioning into a season of our life where maybe you're more in a high stress job, you're more emotionally stressed because your kids get a little older and your body's just not doing what you want it to do like it did 10, 20 years ago. I get it. So if that sounds like you, welcome. You are in the right place. Now, let me tell you, I am 43 and I kept forgetting this past year when everyone's asked, how old are you? I kept saying 42. No, I'm 43. And let me tell you, the jump from 42 to 43 is where I personally started to see a little shift in my body. And I don't think I'm in perimenopause yet, but I think I'm getting close because what used to work just doesn't work anymore. And it was very frustrating. Even as like a fitness coach, I knew what to do. I was just like, gosh, it's just not working. And you feel like you're working so hard and you're not seeing the results you want. And you really start to lose confidence in yourself. It can be really frustrating. And I want you to know, if you feel like this too, you're not alone. And honestly, as we discussed in this episode today with our guest, women have been going through this season for years. And today we're going to really focus on taking back control and even ease into some of the symptoms and frustrations that can come along with perimenopause and even menopause, right? You are not alone. Women, we've been doing this for years, but it can be a little confusing. So we got to be a little proactive. Now, what has really shifted for me just in the past 6 months has been a focus on daily steps, walking more, incorporating some sprints here and there, and following my own progressive overload program, Thrive, which you can always check out a PDF download of this program at bit.ly/Thrive download. Now, during this past 6 months, I really started with building muscle mass and focusing on high protein while checking out my levels with a functional doctor and using supplementation where it was needed. And now I've moved into a fat loss phase and I've dialed in my nutrition even more while I continue that same fitness routine. And my body composition is changing. The scale hasn't moved that much, but my body composition is changing. And I'm so driven to keep going and watch what happens because not only is my energy back, but my confidence is rising as well. So it's not a quick fix. It's that training for life mentality and staying patient and being a little curious about what's going on with your body and being okay with shifting your healthy habits. And I think oftentimes we think there is just nothing we can do as we go into perimenopause or menopause, and we just have to suffer through it, right? But that's not the case. Today, we're chatting with my friend Healthy Emmie about how you can take back control now through some very proactive habits to ease into that perimenopause or menopause phase. Let me tell you about Emmie. Healthy Emmie is a nutritionist, weight loss specialist, and creator of the Slim program, helping individuals find their ideal weight effortlessly with a sustainable plant based approach. She specializes in menopause and perimenopause. She has guided thousands of women through balanced nutrition and fitness strategies tailored to these life stages. Emmie blends science based coaching with empathy, reflection, and actionable strategies to transform her clients' relationship with food and health. Y'all, I love this conversation with Emmie so much because she's just so knowledgeable and really leads with empathy. And I just know you're going to love this conversation as much as I did and leave with some action steps for you to start implementing now and take back control because you do not need to suffer through this season of life. Okay, so get a pen and paper handy. You'll probably want to take some notes on this episode. And as always, make sure to stick around to the end of our conversation because I'll have 3 big takeaways for you. Okay, let's go chat with Healthy Emmie. Okay, gang, I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation today, be able to take action and just feel a little seen today, no matter what season of life that you are in. We are so excited to chat with Emmie Keefe today. Emmie, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this today.
Same. Well, girl, the first question I ask every guest is, what is your favorite habit hack? Like, what is saving your life right now?
Absolutely. So I am obsessed with sleep, and I know this is going to speak to the listeners of this podcast, and sleep is so precious. So I'm going to share with you a way to hack your sleep. So let's say you need to get up at 6 a.m. If you go to sleep at 10 p.m., that's 8 hours of sleep. That's good stuff. Now, what if you have to get up at 5 a.m.? Well, you go to bed at 9 p.m., you get 8 hours of sleep. But if you go to bed at 9 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m. versus if you go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m., you are actually getting more high quality sleep with the 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. window. If you want even higher quality sleep with the same amount of time, if you go to bed at 8 p.m. and wake up at 4 a.m., you're still getting 8 hours. But the quality of sleep of that in comparison to going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m., you can't even compare the two because the hours before midnight are when we get our nice, deep, restorative, restful sleep. So if we can get in as many hours before midnight as we can get, you could even get 7 hours. But if you're getting in a lot of those before midnight, you'll get higher quality sleep than the person who's going to bed at midnight and sleeping for 10 hours. So the habit hack that I've really been leaning into lately is getting in as many of those hours before midnight as I can, even if I know I'm not able to get as many hours in total, because the quality of that sleep is just so much higher.
Oh, that's so great to think about it that way versus like, oh my gosh, I got to get to bed by here to get 8 hours of sleep. Or like you said, if I go to bed at midnight and I get to sleep in, whatever, it's fine. So as many hours before midnight as possible for quality sleep.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh,
I would rather, I'd take somebody who gets 6 hours, but they're going to bed at 8 p.m. as opposed to somebody who's getting 8 hours, but they're not going to bed till midnight or 1 a.m.
that's a game changer. And that just trickles into every other aspect of our health for sure. That's a great habit hack, Emmy. Well, let's get to know you a little bit better. Can you share a little bit about your story? What has led you to what you do, who you help, who you are today?
Yeah, well, I've always been a helper. I used to be a teacher, actually. I was a math teacher, taught algebra and geometry. But while I was a teacher, I had my YouTube channel on the side and my Instagram on the side. And I mean, I've been doing YouTube since YouTube first came out, just making videos about health and nutrition and trying to help people lead healthier lives. And that was all great and fun. And it Wasn't until I decided to pursue that full time. And really, I documented my mom's journey, my mom's health journey on my YouTube channel, that things completely changed. So, my mom was going through menopause. She was 60 at the time, and I had been eating a plant-based diet forever. And she was talking about the symptoms of menopause. And I knew the power that food can have in helping women float through that natural part of life more gracefully, not having it be something that is so burdensome on them. So I said, why don't you try my way of eating? And I have a nutrition program you can follow. And so she followed my nutrition program, went through my program, and we documented it on my YouTube channel. And that really changed everything because there were so many women going through that same stage of life that saw her going through it and saw her have great results going through my nutrition program. She released weight, she felt light, she felt like herself again. And they wanted to do the same. And so my nutrition program really exploded at that time. And I had the honor of working with so many women in their 40s, 50s, 60s going through that stage of life that I really became an expert on what menopause and perimenopause looks like for women and how to support them during that part of the life cycle. So I really am passionate about helping women float through life gracefully in regards to health and what different ages present to us with health challenges. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about that today with you.
I love that your journey started with helping your mom. That
Yeah,
is
and my dad too,
amazing. Your
actually. I
dad,
mean,
oh my gosh.
he hasn't gone through menopause and never
Right.
will. But both of my parents, yeah, they both eat a whole food plant-based diet and they've had great results from it.
I love that so very much. And especially that you really specialize, 40s, 50s, 60s, because I know speaking with my mom, she's 70. And my sister's 4 years older than me. So I'm asking them, being 43 myself. So what's your perimenopause like? And to my sister and to my mom, I'm like, well, what do you remember about menopause? And my mom's just like, oh my gosh, I don't remember. It was just terrible. And they don't have a lot of details because I don't feel like there was a lot of support or a lot of folks out there that were knowledgeable enough to be able to support women in that phase. Because I know it can be a very frustrating time where what you used to do just isn't working anymore. And a lot of it has to do with mindset as well. Like we grew up in a time with diet culture and it's thinking, well, I just need to reduce my calories and exercise more. Maybe that's what your doctor's telling you. But there's more ways to think about this in a way that's helpful and optimizing your health. And what we like to say here, training for life, where this becomes a lifestyle and your habits help support you with that. So I love that you started with your parents and doing that. That's so sweet. Well, I want to talk all about perimenopause and some habit hacks in specific to perimenopause that will really help our listeners optimize their health. But let's start with the basics, okay? What age approximately can perimenopause typically begin and how long can it last?
On average, we're looking at perimenopause starting around 45. It can start in your late 30s, it can start in your late 40s, but on average, we're looking at mid 40s. How long it lasts? On average, about 5 years. It can be as short as 2 years in some women or as long as 10 years in other women. There's a lot of factors that will dictate what that looks like, genetics being one of the big ones. But that's sort of the overall nuts and bolts on what perimenopause is looking like in terms of age and length.
Now, how do you know if you're going into perimenopause? Like I said, I'm 43. I'm working with a functional doctor, and I can get online and like the algorithm has figured me out and sending me all these reels talking about perimenopause, or I start Googling symptoms and I'll say to my husband, well, I think this could be perimenopause related. I don't know because there's millions of bullet points, it feels like. So, how would our listener know, like, maybe I'm heading into perimenopause?
Well, the The most prominent one is going to be changes in the menstrual cycle. So, having your cycle be longer or shorter, or you're skipping periods, or they're heavier or they're lighter. For most women, most healthy women, your cycle will be pretty predictable for most of your life. Comes around the same time every month, you ovulate around the same time every month, and your period is a certain amount of days, and you have a certain heaviness to your flow. Once that starts to change, that's a signal that perimenopause is happening. Because what is perimenopause? It's a change in estrogen levels, a natural decline in estrogen levels, which is going to affect your menstrual cycle greatly. Alongside that, you'll start to see other symptoms. You'll start to see mood swings, hot flashes, vaginal dryness, changes in sex drive, changes in sleep. If all of those things are happening in conjunction with changes in your cycle, then you're probably heading into perimenopause. But I have to say, a lot of women don't know the ins and outs of what their normal cycle is. So if you don't know that, if you don't know what day you ovulate, if you don't know how, exactly how many days your cycle is, then now is the time to start tracking that and to start to see what your levels are looking like. Are you ovulating? Are you having anovulatory cycles? So you can start to see the changes as the months go on.
Yeah, I know I use an app to help track my cycle and see like my ovulation in between and it's usually very accurate and very normal, but sometimes there'll be a couple of days here or there where I'll start my cycle a little earlier, or I know I'm in my luteal phase because I can just tell like, oh my gosh, I'm lethargic and I'm hungry and I don't want to do anything right now. And I think that's great to start with that. That way you know the data versus just being like, well, I'm in my early mid 40s. I should be I'm probably in perimenopause, where really it could be some other factors going on as well affecting your health versus just being perimenopause, right?
Yeah, and I think having some sense of control over it can make you feel a little bit better too, and a little bit more at peace with this. Women have been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years. Perimenopause and menopause is a part of life, and it can feel so foreign and scary and feel like you don't have control over what's happening to your body. So to have some more knowledge about what your cycle looks like so that you can, like I said, support your body through this natural season of life, it can help you feel a lot better.
Yeah, I was listening to someone speak the other day who had been through menopause, and she was a wellness expert. And she had mentioned, hey, 10 years earlier, I was already like pre-planning for perimenopause and trying to optimize my health and changing the way I worked out, changing the way I ate. So hopefully my perimenopause and eventually menopause wouldn't be as hard, right? Is that something that is true?
That's totally accurate. So the reason why menopause, especially in Western cultures, is such a big thing that women just suffer through is because the decline in estrogen, like I said, that is supposed to happen as women get older, is particularly difficult if you have very high estrogen to begin with.
Mhm.
Because if you have a ton of estrogen and then it drops, that's what's going to cause the mood swings and the hot flashes and the change in sex drive and all of that. So the question is, how can we balance out our estrogen levels leading up to this so that there isn't such a sharp decline? And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. But that is accurate what the person who's talking to you was saying
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, because like I said, with me being 43, I've been meeting with a functional doctor and just getting my hormone levels checked as well, just to see where I'm at. And I personally, and this is different for everybody, I'm estrogen dominant. So for me, I'm like, okay, that could maybe be like a bigger swing for me when I go into that season of my life. So kind of thinking of supplementation and the way I'm eating and moving my body. I'm thinking long term right now with what I'm doing, just due to that fact, knowing that fact.
Yeah, and a lot of women are estrogen dominant and
Mhm.
have no idea. So I'm glad that you do have have your finger on that. A great way to help with balancing out your estrogen levels is use of foods that are high in phytoestrogens. So things like flax seeds. Studies have shown that just 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, freshly ground flax seeds a day, can help balance out your estrogen levels tremendously.
Mhm.
And I know there's back and forth about soy and whether it's good and bad, but Old school research is soy is bad. New school research and updated research is actually it's going to really help with balancing out your estrogen levels because it mimics estrogen in the body. And so your body doesn't have to hold on to as much of it.
Mm.
And then having enough fiber. Fiber is going to help with the body excreting excess estrogen and excess hormones that it doesn't need. So all of those things in tandem can very much help with balancing out your estrogen so that when you're going through perimenopause, it isn't this huge drop.
It's funny you said that. I have just started adding flax seeds to oatmeal. I usually have oatmeal at some point in the day just because it's filling and I'm looking for some extra fiber as well. And
Mhm.
yeah, you don't only just have to look at, supplements. There's a lot of great nutrient dense food that you can use to help, like you said, excrete some of that
Absolutely.
estrogen and help you long term. So let's talk about some other habit hacks when it comes to perimenopause. Whether you're in it, you're already in menopause, you don't know if you're in between or where you're at. I want to specifically, so we kind of hit on nutrition just a little bit. I want to talk about our fitness habits a little bit as well, because I think a lot of times, maybe you start getting a little thicker in the midsection. You're thinking, okay, well, I need to just hit up the cardio big time or like high intensity workouts because that's what used to work for me in my 20s. What would be the best route for us as far as movement goes in this stage of life that we're in?
It breaks my heart when women go down that path because they're so well intentioned
Yes.
and they want to figure this out and they just want to feel like themselves. They don't
Mhm.
want to feel heavy and weighed down.
Yep.
And that's actually going to make the situation worse because the reason why women hold more weight around the midsection is because their cortisol tends to get higher when estrogen starts to drop. And because of that, you hold on more water in the midsection. You're just kind of puffy everywhere because you're holding more water and weight all around your body. So, increasing cardio and decreasing calories is going to stress your body out more. And what is the stress hormone? It's cortisol. So, I see women that will starve themselves, they'll do tons of cardio, they'll do very high intensity training, and their symptoms will get worse and they'll get puffier and they'll hold more weight around the midsection because they're stressing themselves out so much. So when it comes to cardiovascular health, I wouldn't look toward the methods of fitness that are super high intensity that are going to stress your body out. Instead, as far as cardiovascular health goes, I would focus more on the low intensity, long, for example, going on a long 60 to 90-minute walk as opposed to doing sprints for 20 minutes.
Mhm.
That's going to be better for your cardiovascular health in terms of keeping your cortisol in check. And then strength training, because as women drop estrogen, your bones are getting weaker as well, and you are at risk of osteoporosis. So, how do we keep those bones strong? We need to make sure you have enough muscle on your body. So, leaning into the strength training, moving away from that super intense cardio, and helping your body maintain muscle mass, not stressing your body out.
Mm. And it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You're not going to see like, oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in a month just by walking and strength training. If anything, it's a long process for your body to, kind of calibrate to what you're doing now and be like, oh, this is a more gentle approach. This is a more long-term approach. I know for me, like I have a walking pad if I'm working from my desk, I'm moving, but also I have a small little weighted vest that I'll throw on sometimes if because I'm in Indiana and it's freezing right now, Emmy. So I'm not going outside and walking as much, but I'll be inside and I'll just throw on a, little weighted vest to help with my bone density. And for me, I'm focused on strength training, or, I coach at Orange Theory, which is a high intensity workout. All of the ladies that I work with that are in their mid 40s, I'm like, well, how about you power walk instead of sprint, or start on the weight floor? That way you're not fatigued and you're able to lift heavier and help build that muscle mass because that's where it's going to be at long term. And of course, the more muscle mass you have, that will burn more fat, but that doesn't happen overnight. So we obviously have to stay patient.
Absolutely. And moving with the flow of nature and what your body is intended to do over this time. Perimenopause is kind of a made up word because menopause really is the transition from being fertile to no longer having the opportunity to bear children, which is like a 20-year period. And it's supposed to be this nice transition of, slowly declining estrogen. Your cycles just kind of work their way into not having them anymore. But because in Western society, societies, especially, we're so stressed out, we're so go, go, go. For many women, they have their estrogen dominant, it becomes more difficult. So if we can move at a slower pace, more aligned with what nature intended this process to look like, we're going to float through it a lot more gracefully.
Yeah, I love that so much. That sounds so much more forgiving and graceful and not as stressful when your cortisol might be already a little high. Anyways, well, I know we talked a little bit about some food habit hacks as far as foods that will help with your estrogen levels. What are some other food habit hacks we need to be focusing on during this season of life?
Again, I find women that are so well intentioned, they really want to figure this out. They place their focus on the wrong areas. So instead of focusing on eating real, whole, natural food that doesn't have ingredients, that isn't filled with all these additives and powders and all of that, focus on eating real, whole, natural food instead of, well, I need to make sure I get exactly this many grams of that and exactly that many grams of that. They're stressing themselves out tremendously and they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're choosing fake foods because they want to hit certain grams of
Yeah.
whatever, as opposed to choosing real, whole, natural food, which has the fiber. You can get great omega-3s and healthy fats to support your hormones. There's so much that nature gave us in real, whole, natural food. If we focus so much on getting this many grams of protein, this many grams of fat, I need to use this product at this time, and the intermittent fasting, again, that cortisol, the stress hormone, you get so stressed out that it cancels each other out. It completely defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on fruits and vegetables and whole greens and beans and peas and lentils, avocados, these really whole natural foods that have the fiber, they have the phytoestrogens, they have the macro and micronutrients that your body needs. I've said this, a few times in this podcast, but I really want to drive this point home. Your body knows how to do this. It knows how to go through this process. So if we eat the foods that nature, the God, the universe, however you look at it, gave us, our body's going to do just fine. We don't need all this pre-packaged stuff. We don't need artificial things to go through a natural process.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. And yeah, I think you're right. We get caught up in the wrong details. We're looking at, oh, if it fits my macro, so I'm going to eat like this protein bar that has all this extra just junk in it, or I'm going to add this or add that. And where there's God-given fruits and vegetables. Like right now, I'm focused a lot on fiber content, and I'm looking at fruits and vegetables for that. I'm not looking at other sources to give me that fiber. Or, I am focusing on higher protein because I'm focused on weight training and I want to help build that muscle mass and maintain it. But I'm not going to rely on protein bars and shakes and whatnot to do that. I'm focused on natural protein sources. Now, there's a time and place. Maybe it's an emergency. You're like, okay, I'm starving. I have an RX bar in my glove compartment at all times as a backup food. That's great. But I think where we get caught up in is just the quality of foods we're putting in our bodies and how that's not serving us.
Right.
Goodness. Well, what about some mindset habit hacks? You kind of already alluded to kind of knowing the facts, as far as your cycle, the foods you're bringing in, the way you're training your body. What are some other mindset habit hacks to help us through this time, Emmy? Because it can be a very frustrating time.
Yeah, for sure. It is frustrating. And your hormones, as we know, dictate your moods and emotions. And during perimenopause, as estrogen is fluctuating, mostly on the decline, you're going to feel moody. If you can step back, sort of take a scientist approach, so to speak, look at your feelings and emotions and directly see, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling moody, I'm feeling testy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling happy, whatever, because of what's going on here, not being in the emotions as much, but more so taking the observer point of view, the scientist point of view, and saying, that's so interesting. I was having a great day, and then all of a sudden, this dark cloud came over me, as opposed to being in the dark cloud and this doomsday mentality, and my emotions have so much control over me, to instead step back and observe it. That can be really helpful to observe the emotions as opposed to being so caught in the emotions, and understand that that's normal, that you're going to have these mood swings. It's one of the symptoms of perimenopause. So first, being the observer, stepping back, viewing your emotions as opposed to being so trapped in them. And then second, to be very rigid and vigilant in your mental health self-care and to put in place habits and routines. And I'm sure you have some yourself of taking note and taking inventory and stock of how your emotions are day to day, observing them, working through them, things like meditation and journaling. These should be as much of a non-negotiable as taking care of your nutrition and fitness are. Mental health has to be there during this time because your estrogen is fluctuating. Your moods are going to be all over the place. So if you have a steady routine of taking stock of those and working through those, it can help you with managing them and not feeling like you're drowning in these crazy emotions.
It's so easy to get caught up in it or just be like, I'm rage cleaning right now and I don't know why. And I'm sad right now and I don't know why. And I love how you are taking the approach, Emmy, of being the observer, and even taking it a step further and being like, has something triggered me to feel this way? Like, well, I didn't sleep well last night. Maybe that could be the culprit. Or, maybe I haven't eaten enough today, or I started with something sugary at the beginning of the day. Now I'm crashing from that, taking stock and what maybe triggered that, but also being okay with it. Be like, I'm upset right now. I'm mad. Am I actually hungry right now? Do I need to connect with somebody? Do I need to take a break? And like you said, building in some habits. I love journaling. I love meditation as well, to really just ground yourself and really get out of your own head sometimes and realize sometimes you're making it a little bigger in your head than what it needs to be. And that's so much more grounding and so much more peaceful as well, especially during a time where maybe your hormones and your emotions feel a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Letting the emotions come, visit, work their way through you, and then
Mm,
move on.
yeah.
These emotions are temporary, the mood swings are temporary, perimenopause is temporary, it's all temporary. So to let it come, observe it, keep your distance,
Mm,
watch the emotion, look at it with curiosity. Where did that come from? Did something trigger that?
mm.
To give you your control back as opposed to feeling like you're drowning in all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I had a pelvic floor expert on the show, and she shared this great habit hack I've been sharing with so many of my clients because I'm like, it makes so much sense. She has this trigger of every time she walks through a door, it is her trigger to do a body check to feel, am I tense? Am I feeling just tense? And she's like, most of the time I am, and you don't even realize it. So she's like, I'm just relaxing my body, or even just shaking out my nerves and my nervous system, or focus on some quick breathing, doing a whole body check. Where do I feel tense? Releasing that tension. And she was like, and I'm like, that is game changer for so many of us women because I feel like we are walking around so tense all the time, and it's manifesting physically as well.
Absolutely. I love that. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it reminds me of how that teeny little change can have that
Mm-hmm.
huge ripple effect. Bringing it back to I talked a bit about meditation. I'm a huge advocate of meditation, and I was so resistant to it for so long because I thought it was silly, too busy for it. I'm not good at it as a type A perfectionist. I don't like when I'm not good at things, so I don't want to do something I'm not good at. I don't really know how to do it. And I swallowed my pride and I said, I'm just going to do 1 minute every day. That's all I'm going to do. And the profound impact that that had on me, I can't even tell you. So to just take that teeny bit of time to check in with your nervous system and help move it into the rest and digest parasympathetic
Mm-hmm.
has huge ripple effect.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned, Emmy. This really is a great way to wrap up our conversation. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. Focus on something really tiny right now that would help you during this stage of life, whether your fitness, your nutrition, your mindset, and slowly add more on over time. And eventually it's a lifestyle and it's a lot more graceful versus trying to do it all or nothing.
Yeah, because that's what perimenopause is. It is not this one day you're fertile, the next day you're not. It is this gradual flow that your body goes through. So to
Mhm.
match your body in that sense
Mhm.
and go with the flow of it and slowly make these changes to help support that transition.
Ah, that's really beautiful. I love that. Well, Emmy, I love this conversation so much with you. I could keep on chatting with you, but where can everyone connect with you and find out more about you?
I am on all social media at Healthy Emmie. Emmie is Emmie. You can also go to healthyemmie.org, and I would love to connect.
Super. We'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes for everybody as well, because I know they will want to connect with you, Emmy. But thank you so much for this conversation. I love chatting with you today.
Thanks for having me.
Emmy, thank you so much for this conversation. Gang, make sure to go to the show notes to give Healthy Emmie a follow. I know you're going to find even more information from her to help you create some proactive habits to help you through these seasons of your life. Now, let's talk about my 3 biggest takeaways from this conversation with Healthy Abby. First, we talk about this a lot. I talk about this in my habit course, and it's knowing the facts, right? Facts versus feeling, data versus drama, right? So, essentially what happens during perimenopause is there's a decline in estrogen levels, and you might notice your period's random. It's not as predictable. So using an app to track like what's going on with your period so you can see if there's actually something going on, and go seek out the data. Go get your levels checked. Go to a functional doctor. A regular doctor won't dig as deep with your levels as a functional doctor will to see where everything is and helping you optimize where you're at. This is how you can take back control and just be at peace. You don't have to suffer through it, but you have to track the data to see, okay, am I actually easing into perimenopause? Can I utilize some supplementation to help me as that's going? Next, as Emmy said, your estrogen levels start to drop, and a couple other proactive habits you can do around food, fitness, and mindset. I love the idea of using freshly ground flax seeds to help balance your estrogen levels and focusing on fiber because that will help excrete the excess estrogen. Fiber is so important for our hormones, and I'm not talking about fiber like getting just like whole grains in. I'm talking about fiber from fruits, vegetables, and other whole foods as well. Also, as far as your fitness goes, it's good to think of your cardiovascular health. We have to take care of our hearts, but we're not going 1,000 miles per hour all the time, right? Think of high intensity, low calorie. No, you're burnt out. Your cortisol levels are high. Healthy Emmie got into that with us. So focusing on low intensity, going on a long walk, focusing on strength training to help that bone density as our bones get weaker. So we need those more muscles. And finally, mental health just has to be a non-negotiable due to your estrogen dipping, and mood swings will ultimately happen. So if you get outside and walk, that's good for your mental health, movement, and that natural sunlight and that vitamin D. You're utilizing some great nutrition to help that make sure those estrogen levels don't like just totally tank and you feel like, but also check in with yourself, right? Create some habits to help support your mental health, whether that would be getting off social media, whether that would be incorporating more walking, more movement, more time for self-care or community, connecting with your girlfriends. Like, find what personally works for you to help with your mental health during this time, because your hormones, those estrogen levels are going to dip and you're going to be like, got to take control there. And then finally, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Change the way you view training for life as your body is just calibrating to these new healthy habits, right? You don't have to run around with your hair on fire anymore or get frustrated because you're working so hard in the gym and you're restricting so much and now you're grouchy and tired all the time. Rethink of it as a more gentle approach that's going to help you not just now, but proactively. So when you hit perimenopause or menopause, or maybe you're already there, it's not such a drastic dip and you feel like there's no way you can dig yourself out of it. Remember, be curious. Take back the control from these habits that Healthy Emmie shared with us today. Remember, you don't have to suffer through this season of your life. We can't avoid it, right? It's coming whether we want it to or not. So start focusing on those proactive habits you can do now so you don't suffer through it, but you ease through those seasons of life, whether it be perimenopause, menopause, with some grace and come out on the other side still training for life in the next season of life that comes your way. Friend, I am always rooting for you, and I will catch you in the next episode. I am so proud of you for listening to another episode of Habit Hack Your Health. I don't want you to just feel inspired, but I want you to go take action. To help you do that, go grab a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app. This is habit-based fitness programming that you won't find anywhere else. A full fitness library with workouts programmed around what we need as midlife moms, and habit trainings and accountability community to help you stay consistent no matter what season of life that you're in. Go to trainingforlifeapp.com to start your free 7-day trial, and let's start training for life together. I'm so rooting for you, girl. I'll see you in the next episode.